Assassin's Creed Shadows has become a titular game in the battle of players' wants and needs versus those of industry expectations. The game has been mired in controversy aplenty already. I've been covering this game's entire implosion since the moment it was dawned upon us. The game has rightfully gotten plenty of anger over the inclusion of Yasuke, but now the entire art book of Shadows has leaked online. And while I wish I could show you guys the photos of everything, I'm pretty sure that if I put that in this video, that Ubisoft will likely try to DMCA me for posting unreleased information. However, I can talk about it, and the internet is already up in arms about a lot of this too. Beyond this, Kingdom Come's developers want to exit the culture war, so to speak, and paint themselves as victims, and I'll get to that one in a bit later on too. So like I said, the entire art book leaked. Grums posted it, and unfortunately, if you go to click the link provided now, it goes to nowhere as the entire thing has been scrubbed from the internet. Of course, plenty of people already downloaded most of the images already. Because who are we kidding? This is the internet. I think Ubisoft is less mad that it got leaked for the artwork, and more so mad that it got leaked because of the information that has been provided from this book instead. Although what's presented in this book could be subject to change, I will speak on what was unearthed right now. Firstly, there was a samurai woman named Ibuki that was revealed. Also confirmed is that both Naoe and Yasuke will have different companions based on which character you choose to play. The easiest way to describe this is these companions each have unique abilities and traits and all of that stuff. Compare them to, say, a Fallout 3 or 4 companion, if you will. That's probably the best way to look at them. I covered Yaya already, who was confirmed to be a female sumo wrestler type, which does make zero sense because such concepts did not exist during this time period whatsoever. Shadows, by the way, takes place in 1579, in case you didn't know. The game covers a civil war that ends with the finale of the Sengoku period of Japan. Anyway, back to this Ibuki character. I'm looking right at her art right now in this leaked image and everything else, and I wish I could show you guys, but again, Ubisoft will probably get butthurt if I do. However, what was unearthed about Ibuki is that her description in the book, which I am also not allowed to say, because if I do, that will also likely be something Ubisoft could DMCA me for. I will instead just tell you kind of the gist of it. Companies being companies, guys, aren't I right? Anyway, Ibuki is a Japanese female samurai. According to what I could find online, female samurais first existed during the time period of 1180 to 1185 during the Genpei War. Although according to historical records, most female samurai did not actually face real combat, instead staying back in their respective homes or cities with the children to protect them when their husbands were away fighting the wars in their stead, usually also as samurai too. Basically, female samurai were like really badass moms who could not only cook you a nice dinner, but also slice their enemies down if they tried to harm their families. Real life badasses they were. Although, I'm sure there will be people who will scoff at the idea of a female samurai, but they were in fact real and active during these periods of time. Even technically during Shadow's timeline, most female samurai, or as they were notably called Onabukeishas, I probably mispronounced that, but they were even seen fighting side by side their male samurai counterparts during the Sengoku period, which, yes, is when Shadows takes place. So I wanted to state that now, because when this game inevitably comes out, I know there will be some that may want to spread the story that female samurais did not exist, but they did. I'm just gonna save you now from spreading misinformation, which will only damage this cause more than anything else in the future. So these Onabugeishas would protect their home, and Ibuki from this book is one of these female samurais, a ronin in fact. She's no longer a samurai. Ronins, by the way, are samurais who lost their honor or failed their lords that instead now wander the land in search of jobs for money. A famous female samurai, by the way, was Lady Otsuya, who was a daughter of the Oda clan and the aunt of Oda Nobunaga, the very same influential man that allegedly bought Yasuke when he was brought by the Jesuits to Japan in the 1500s. The reason why I'm talking about Ibuki is less about her character, so to speak, as there isn't really much to be said there. However, what was interestingly pointed out by Madam Savvy on Twitter was that Ibuki is very distinctly referred to in a non-binary-like way of thinking. Never once in Ibuki's small description is the word she or her ever used once, only they or them is used to describe this female Ronin. This may be a unique thing, and surely other characters are explained in the same way, right? Well, actually no. It turns out as people comb through the book, whenever a character was very distinctively a male, they would be specifically referred to as he or him in their description. The same for female characters not being they or them, but of course instead she or her. This implies, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, unless Ubisoft changed this at some point, but I really doubt it happening, that Ibuki was absolutely going to be a non-binary samurai in Shadows always. And Ibuki is a companion exclusive from what I can tell for Naoe, so expect this non-binary samurai to be a love interest for Naoe too, since both her and Yasuke can romance whoever the player chooses. It also confirms that Naoe's father, Fujibayashi Nagato, is indeed a part of the Assassin's Brotherhood within Shadows, and is the original owner of the hidden blade given to Naoe. But this information is not that surprising, since in the story trailer recently that was released, we can see Nagato giving Naoe the hidden blade, so not really a spoiler. Another character detailed on the same page as Nagato is a female character named Katsuhime, who is described as being clad in Portuguese-like weapons and armor, and having a tenacity for firearms and explosives. This character will also be recruitable by Naoe, and yes, I assume a love interest too. I actually have no problems really with this character specifically. She seems pretty cool actually on the surface, so good on Ubisoft for this one at least, credit where it's due. There's also a Robin Hood-like character named Genojo, who steals from the rich to give to the poor, and another recruitable character who makes a sort of rigid hidden blade to train as an assassin that you can eventually give formal training to turn them into one. Honestly, out of the characters leaked here, it's obvious that Ibuki is going to raise a bunch of eyebrows, because it's yet again Ubisoft implementing non-binary propaganda into their games where it should not exist. But I looked into it anyway, cause why not, right? Here's what Google ended up telling me. While the term non-binary wasn't used in the Sengoku period or any historical period before the modern era, there is evidence of a third gender concept in Japan during the Edo period, which followed the Sengoku period, called wakashu, referring to young men who were considered neither fully male nor female and could be sexual partners for both men and women, suggesting a societal understanding of gender fluidity beyond the binary. Key points about wakashu meaning translates roughly to beautiful youths. Social role. These young men were considered sexually attractive and could engage with both men and women, often within the context of same-sex relationships with older men. Significance. The existence of wakashu is often cited as an example of a historical third gender in Japan. Ha! Gay! Well, third gender's kind of pushing it. That's obviously progressive reimagining of the concept, but these wakashu are basically, let's just say it how it is, they're just modern day twinks pretty much. This doesn't mean that they're a third gender. They're simply young men who got down with either genders, which is, well, not something I want to ever see in person if I'm being real, but this is not non-binary. This is literally a twink, guys. Come on. Ibuki doesn't fall into this category anyway. She's clearly referred to as they, them. Although people tried to community note Savvy's post and claim that the they in the sentence refers to the Ronins and their habits, not Ibuki. But I don't think so. Let me read you what it says. It states, free-spirited, rebellious, yet joyful by nature, this recruitable ally is a solitary Ronin who came from a clan of obedient samurai but now follows a unique moral compass. They were well trained and excel in combat but always felt constrained by the strict rules and stoicism of the samurai class. Typically clad in a classic kimono and hakama pants, Ibuki harbors a deep reverence for poetry, art, and nature. No, the they does not refer to the Ronin as a group or anything like that. Stating they were well trained and excelled in combat, but always felt constrained by the strict rules and stoicism of the samurai class, the description would specifically state that Ibuki's entire clan felt that way, but it's worded to imply that Ibuki herself is the only one who feels that way about the samurai code. So again, she's being referred to in a non-binary manner, implying that she is indeed non-binary. Also, Hakama pants are described to be a part of Ibuki's look, and Hakama pants, as I could see here, are gender-neutral pants in Japan. So both genders wear them. Here's a picture of what these pants look like in the modern day. As you can see, anybody can wear these, which can also be conspicuously chosen by Ubisoft for Ibuki to imply that she is seeing herself as non-female, but instead non-binary, because even her clothing style choice is of a gender-neutral look. I wonder how people will react once the game comes out and it's confirmed that Ubisoft has, once again, modern audience, the society of Japan, like this again to meet their needs. But it doesn't end there. This brings me back to Yaya, the fat female so-called sumo wrestler that totally could exist during this time, except not really at all. Yaya's description reads, Yaya brings formidable strength, both physical and spiritual, to any cause. As a dedicated Sohei, a Buddhist warrior monk, she became a fierce fighter. However, people started pointing out that not only does Yaya's existence as a sumo wrestler make zero sense during the time period the game takes place in, but her now confirmed lifestyle to be that of a Buddhist warrior monk makes even less sense, and proves that Ubisoft has yet again decided to twist traditional Japanese culture to make way for their woke ideals. As stated in this infographic made by Hubba Bandor on Twitter, monastic life, including that of nuns, often involved a simple diet focused on vegetarianism or at least a limited range of foods based on Buddhist precepts. So I decided to look up warrior monk diets, because why not during this time period, and here's what I got. A Japanese warrior monk typically associated with Buddhist teachings would primarily follow a vegetarian diet known as Shojin Ryori, which focuses on tofu, seasonal vegetables, seaweed, and other plant-based foods, adhering to the principle of not harming living creatures by avoiding meat and fish. Key elements of a Japanese warrior monk's diet: tofu, a primary source of protein, blah blah blah, seasonal vegetables, miso soup, seaweed, brown rice, pickled vegetables, and stuff like green tea. And it was specifically stated that they ate no meat or fish due to Buddhist precepts against killing. A Shojin Ryori diet strictly avoids animal products, so if you're a warrior monk, you must not harm animals and must instead, basically, be a vegetarian. Although remember that Yaya is apparently also a sumo wrestler, but also female, and sumos apparently eat tons of meals made with protein as in animals. Because sumos obviously need huge calorie diets to sustain their massive sizes for obvious reasons, but what Ubisoft is claiming here is that Yaya is a warrior monk who is also apparently a sumo and a woman, despite not being able to eat the sort of diet that would allow her body to reach the weight or form she would need to become a sumo wrestler, since she is strictly vegetarian. I also decided to look up how many calories a sumo wrestler would need to maintain their size to compete. The answer that I could find is that sumo wrestlers require roughly 20,000 calories per day to keep themselves in the desired form to compete. To put that into perspective for you, the average adult man today needs an average of around 2,000 to 2,600 calories per day to sustain themselves. Meaning these sumo wrestlers in such cases are eating as much as 10 times the amount of calories as a normal man does to keep their form. Now remember that Yaya apparently has to eat this, but in vegetables. It's simply unsustainable and likely borderline impossible to do. Ubisoft basically threw all the logic out the window and said we need a female sumo wrestler somehow, so we're gonna have her, I guess, anyway. Then Dr. Alaric Naoe, who keeps appearing in my videos due to his wealth of knowledge around these sorts of things, chimed in on this supposed fat sumo female vegetarian with, they can't get anything right, even English is wrong. Buddhist monks are called monks and nuns are called nuns. Moreover, this person doesn't look Buddhist at all. Instead, they look like a Chinese model from Confucianism. I said that totally wrong, my bad. Ubisoft seems to view all Asians as the same. I'm gonna be real with you guys, I don't know what Confucianism is. I probably said that, how do you say Confucianism? Is that how you say it? I don't know. Anyway, according to Google, it is a system of ethics, values, and behavior that originated in ancient China. It's based on the teachings of Confucius, a Chinese philosopher. So they based Yaya's look and beliefs instead on ancient Chinese values over those of Japan. Does Ubisoft know where they're setting shadows in exactly? Because it sure as hell ain't China last time I checked. Another user would reply to all of this with, oh god, that's even worse than a sumo wrestler. At least sumo wrestlers have reasons why they're so fat. that being high-calorie diets given to them. While a monk, we are in an era where food shortages are constant because of the war. A monk is a peasant compared to a sumo. How? Naoe would reply, robbing peasants most likely. I mean, nowadays, right, that's really the only way Yaya could theoretically find the sufficient amount of calories to be fat enough during the Sengoku period. Which again, she would be a vegetarian only since Ubisoft confirmed that she's a warrior monk somehow, even though she's a woman, so she would be a nun instead. So Yaya not only doesn't make any sense at all, but she's also describing herself in a male-oriented sense. I then decided to look into those famines described, and yeah, there were quite a few of them. None of the famines, however, that I could find technically overlap specifically with the time period that Shadows takes place in. However, during the Sengoku period, it was considered a time where Japan's overall population decreased almost by 1 million people. 920,000 people to be exact died from famine alone during 1780 to 1786. But this particular famine happened 200 years after the events of Shadows. Regardless, the concept that Ubisoft came to here is ridiculous. A female warrior monk, not a nun, who's also a sumo wrestler, or at least has her attacks and abilities referred to by sumo-esque terms, is somehow able to consume 10 times the amount of calories as the average man in a time where food shortages were aplenty. But this is Ubisoft we're talking about, so this shouldn't be too surprising, I suppose. We also have art here showcasing original work for Naoe before her final design. Notice how she's far more feminine, has longer hair, and looks less boyish than her finalized design. I wouldn't be surprised if Ubisoft made Naoe look less feminine on purpose to blur the line, so to speak, when it comes to her gender identity and all of that. Then we get to the one character that makes me go, oh boy, Ubisoft might be getting themselves into hot water here. Let me explain. So we have this character named Junjiro. He's a happy-looking, chubby young boy. His description reads, Junjiro is an 8-year-old bundle of relentless positivity who lives in a crumbling old temple with his guardian, the aged monk Soren. After he finds Naoe near death, they nurse her back to health, and Junjiro becomes the mascot of Naoe and Yasuke's League of Allies. What people started to point out, specifically Savvy, again, is that one of the major consultants for Shadows is a Japanese woman named Sachi Schmidt-Hori. She's the lady on the left in this photo here with the associate narrative designer Brooke Davies. Sachi is the author of a book that specializes in, and no, I'm not kidding, and it's called Tales of Idolized Boys, Male-Male Love in Medieval Japanese Buddhist Narrative. Let me read you the description of this book, and yes, this is real. In medieval Japan, 14th, 16th centuries, it was customary for elite families to entrust their young sons to the care of renowned Buddhist priests from whom they received a premier education in Buddhist scriptures, poetry, music, and dance. When the boys reached adolescence, some underwent coming-of-age rites, others entered the priesthood, and several extended their education, becoming Chigo or Buddhist acolytes. Chigo served their masters as personal attendants and as sexual partners. During religious ceremonies adorned in colorful robes, their faces made up and hairstyled in long ponytails, they entertained local donors and pilgrims with music and dance. Stories of acolytes from the 14th to 16th centuries form the basis of the present volume. An original and detailed literary analysis of 6 tales coupled with a thorough examination of the socio-political, religious, and cultural matrices that produce these texts. Yeah, you heard that right. These young boys would be entrusted to old man priests to be trained to become priests themselves and would usually be used as sexual partners with these old men. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here, guys? Let's read that first part of Junjiro's description again. Junjiro is an 8-year-old bundle of relentless positivity who lives in a crumbling old temple with his guardian, the aged monk Soren. Do I need to spell it out for you more, or do you see what I'm insinuating here? This Junjiro being a main character in this game, and Sachi Schmidt-Hori, who's an expert and old man on young boy relations in Japan, yeah. Now that we're all uncomfortable and just came collectively to a realization that makes us all feel worse than before we all knew this, let's keep moving on. The next time you think of Junjiro, by the way, or see him in game, the likelihood that he's, with his... Anyway, let's just keep moving on. Good God, dude, this is bad. I also joked that Ubisoft would find a way to make white men the evil bad guys of this Japanese game, and it looks like I'm right. We also have a character in the book called Nuno Caro, who's described as a Portuguese Templar who spent 20 years establishing the Templar connection throughout Japan. He's also described to be involved in an incident on a slave ship that has made him the target of Yasuke specifically. So I assume Yasuke's main villain could very well be this Portuguese Templar man who again isn't Japanese, but the evil white man. Who could have seen that coming, except everybody. There's also another white character named Duarte de Mello. He is a slave trader and is also a white man that is explicitly stated in the book that he will face the wrath of Yasuke and Naoe too. Are you noticing how every white character we know so far in Shadows is irredeemable and awful? It's just like Dragon Age Veilguard all over again. White people are the devil, everyone else is a good guy, and the white man must be cut down and destroyed. I wouldn't be surprised if the Portuguese guys are the ones behind everything and the Japanese are actually just their pawns, and it's up to Naoe, a Japanese shinobi, and her totally real black samurai buddy to kill all the white men and save Japan. Because everything white people touches is evil, of course. It's so lame to see, dude, but it's not surprising, sadly either. But it gets worse. The book also reveals that when Oda Nobunaga performed seppuku at the demand of Akechi Mitsuhide, his treacherous general, that in real history, it was Oda's son that seconded him when he
hold on. Hi there. I'm the editor. I'm hopping into this conversation because of a little oopsie that was about to happen. Because of yours truly. Completely innocent mistake. It happens to everyone. But we can learn from our mistakes and correct them. Well, unless you're Ubisoft, that is. As you know, ENDYMION is about to tell you how Ubisoft claims that Yasuke was Oda Nobunaga's second during his seppuku, which is obviously false. But we might have also jumped the gun with saying that Oda's son was his actual second, which in reality is also not true. In fact, it was actually Mori Ranmaru. Here's the updated tweet, which came after ENDYMION recorded this. However, do not fear, with the magic of editing, this is now fixed. I want to thank the Japanese community for correcting our mistake and for informing us, as lovely as they always are, with huge amount of info. Anyway, I'm gonna go away now in the background and let ENDYMION keep talking.
Basically, when you perform seppuku, you sit down obviously and you stab yourself in the guts so that you die. But then what happens after is another person will stand above the person performing the seppuku to second them, or cut them down pretty much, so that the seppuku is performed but it's not considered a suicide since they actually die from the second blade hitting them instead. Anyway, in real history,
Mori Ranmaru
is the one who seconded him, but Shadows apparently is changing this real historical fact to make it so that Yasuke is the one who seconds Oda instead,
Mori Ranmaru,
effectively making Yasuke seem more important to Oda, as he chose Yasuke instead to cut him down. This is actually really bad and completely alters history in this game for no other reason than Ubisoft is full of idiots pretty much. This would be like Jesus getting nailed to a cross, but then he actually dies because Yasuke appears out of nowhere and cuts him in half instead, and then they call that history now. It's just stupid. All of this is so stupid. We got non-binary samurais, fat women eating 20,000 calories in famines. We got young boys with old guys. We got white evil dudes in a game full of Japanese people and a token black guy. And now they're changing real history to make their black samurai seem more important than he really is. Bro, when this game comes out, I actually can't wait to decipher everything in it and see how badly Ubisoft did here. It's going to be glorious. But what do you think about all of this? Good changes or bad? Well, I know your answer anyway, but I'll ask it regardless. Let's now move on to Kingdom Come here to finish this video out. The game is officially out once this video goes live, and the developers really want everyone to know they do not want to be associated with Gamergate at all from PC Gamer. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's developer is fed up of being dragged to the culture war. It seems like someone is always trying to brand us somehow, and we are just trying to make a cool video game. I made a whole video prior to this one to how Warhorse unnecessarily got themselves involved with the ongoing culture war, not at the behest of said culture war, but because their creative director could not keep his mouth shut. Now trying to paint yourselves as victims is just stupid and pathetic in my eyes. Back in 2017, before the launch of the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, the game caught some flack from critics who questioned its lack of people of color and that if it was truly historically accurate. This prompted some genuine, interesting discussions about medieval Europe and its portrayal, but it also saw battle lines being drawn. Some wrote the game off as anti-historical, overly homogenous view of Chechnya, while others rushed into its defense and celebrated it for pushing back against the woke agenda. And this was all before most people had even played it. Game director Daniel Vavra's support for Gamergate only served to fuel the flames. The game didn't catch some flack, it got all the flack. All these websites dogpiled the game and had all manner of problems with it because it was predominantly white. Now they're trying to act like they weren't a part of the problem. Journalists always do this, man, and it's pathetic to see every single time it happens. They will say one thing, lose, then suddenly they were never that thing they were before and will call you convenient buzzwords in order to cover their asses. Again, it wasn't the players that pulled this into the culture war, it was Daniel Vavra who couldn't stop spitting his opinions out when nobody really wanted to hear it. And it led to a lot of ire that I have said many times already in other videos never needed to happen to begin with. Vavra can't play the victim after spewing the things that he did, he just can't. This is like that meme of that girl throwing crap over the wall, and then the crap flings black onto her and then she calls the misogynist or whatever. You can't be serious. Tirelessly I'll keep saying this, but I do not want people to boycott the game. I do not want to attack the devs, but for a studio that could have had it so easy, they have unnecessarily made their own lives a living hell by having no consistent communication between neither the fans or themselves as developers. Everyone is saying different things. Zwilling, another dev, confirmed the game was a Christian game years ago via YouTube comment. But now the director doesn't think so. Make it make sense. It's a mess no matter how you slice it. There's also this part at the end which reads, "The result is a game that feels so much richer, telling stories shaped by different perspectives. That it's upsetting the bigots is merely a bonus, but for Warhorse, which is now being accused of being part of some global DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion conspiracy, it's understandably exhausting. In an ideal world, says Stoles Willing, we would like not to be connected to these fights at all." Again, you can't try to get sympathy or pull the victimhood card when your director is openly attacking fans almost every day on Twitter. Just stop it, Warhorse. The best thing you can do right now is just to stop talking and let the game speak for itself, because it's so obvious that Warhorse as a studio and its developers are clearly not media trained. And look, I don't hold that against them, alright? Not everyone is good at speaking out loud in online discussions like this. I don't expect all developers to have the talent of some talk show host when speaking, but maybe, if you're just a bunch of devs who want to make a game, just leave your PR to whoever is in charge of doing that. Don't let your devs or your creative director keep digging these unnecessary holes like this. Daniel may not like me or whatever, even though I've never attacked his game, but I will criticize his behavior because it has been obviously very poor this past month and a bit. Daniel and whoever else at Warhorse, I don't hate you, but stop being idiots and opening your mouths, guys. Seriously, just shut up and enjoy your success. For your own sakes more than anything else, I'm sure something stupid will be said or unearthed in the coming days. It's video games, it's bound to happen. But Kingdom Come 2 doesn't need these roadblocks that never should have existed had Warhorse just stayed quiet. Let the gameplay and trailers speak, and that's all. If any dev is watching this, the best course of action is to just not say anything at all. Just release your game and that's it. Don't fight with your fans or attack them. It's just stupid and childish, and you really shouldn't be doing that. Also, don't add young boy romance people to your games like Shadows has here. Because my god, dude, what the hell? But that's what I got for you today. Let me know what you think. As always, thank you for watching. Subscribe. Thanks to my supporters. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.